Tuesday, May 20th, and this is Geeknights. Tonight we talk about board games for a change with Railroad Tycoon.
Let's do this. So I found the perfect job today.
Really?
Yup. The EFF is looking for a technology person to basically do everything that Scott does awesomely.
All right, then take the job. Quit your current one.
I would jump all over this job in full force, but I'd have to move to San Francisco.
All right, move. You're the one who always says, pick up and leave. Go where the money is, where the jobs are.
Yeah, but San Francisco kind of sucks.
Why do you say that? You've never been there.
It's true.
What do you know about San Francisco?
I know it doesn't have me in it. That's why it sucks.
But by that logical point, then wouldn't you moving there make it not suck?
Nope.
Why not?
Because I said so.
Yeah. Anyway, we noticed that very recently we've gained a whole bunch of new listeners. So for all of you who've been listening for a long time, we're sorry, but we're going to go over a lot of the basics about the show pretty much every day this week.
Yep. This is a show called Geeknights. there are two guys who talk about geeky shit. One of them is me, named Scott.
And I'm Rim. People have confused us before.
You spell his name R-Y-M.
Not R-I-M, not R-H-Y-M, though I kind of like that one.
But you do pronounce it as R-I-M, as in the job.
Yeah.
Or the basketball.
No one's ever made a joke about a rim job to me.
And you know what? No one's ever done that thing where they say, no one's ever made that joke before.
No, I'm the first one. Really.
No, you're not. You directly stole that from someone else.
Because no one's ever done it, so...
So, you're going to get a lot of shit like this as we talk about various geeky things. And on Monday, we talk about science and technology and all that. But it's Tuesday today, so we talk about games.
Now, often we do video games because that's what a lot of our listeners are into. But we also cover, aside from video games, board games, card games, role-playing games.
Yeah, mostly board games and video games.
Yeah, there's been a distinct drought of board games lately, mostly due to the fact that we haven't had much time to play them since it's con season.
But this weekend is crazy board gaming weekend, oh my god!
Yeah, we're having a bunch of friends out, and we're going to meet a bunch of other people we know to play a big pile of board games all weekend.
And maybe buy a new one, who knows?
Yeah, there's really no board game that's new that's excited me in a while.
I know, me either, but I might just buy something kind of mediocre or average or slightly above average.
You just can't top Tigris and Euphrates in Puerto Rico.
Nope. Okay, so Thursdays we talk about anime, manga.
Wednesdays.
Wednesdays we talk about anime, manga, and comics. And Thursday we talk about crazy shit. Anything we want.
Yeah, including our very popular series on how to not suck.
Where we tell you how to not suck at various things.
Which might sound, I don't know, not fun to listen to, but everyone really likes it, and we get more feedback about that than about just about anything we do.
Yep. And if you are new to this podcasting thing, you can just, go to our website, frontrowcrew.com. You can throw a www in there if you want. And over there's some links to our forums where you can talk to...
Also show notes that we link to everything we talk about.
Yep. In the bottom right-hand corner, there's a little PayPal dealie. Oh, right. Someone gave us PayPal. I forgot to tell everyone.
Oh, really?
Yeah, what's the guy's name? Hold on.
Hold on. I can't edit anything out because we're using GarageBand.
Yeah, so you just keep talking while I find this guy's name about Frapper.
All right, well, we got a Frapper map, which is basically this cool little integrated with Google Maps thing where anyone who wants to can join the Front Row Crew Geeknights Frapper map and put a little dot on the map so you can see where all our listeners are. And you might be surprised, being that many of you are probably Americans, that we have a lot of overseas and foreign listeners, which I think is awesome. We seem to be particularly popular in Australia.
And the UK, kind of.
Yep.
What else is there? Oh, if you send us feedback in the form of audio, meaning you attach an MP3 to an email or something, or if you just send us an email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com, then we will most likely talk about it in the show or something.
Now, we often talk about non-audio feedback we get, but we really don't attribute it or anything because it wasn't audio, so what do you want us to do?
Yeah. But yeah, the forums are also good.
Yeah, our forums are pretty rockin', actually, surprisingly.
Mm-hmm. And that's what this show's all about, right? Pretty much everything we covered.
Yeah.
Okay, the PayPal guy. Some awesome person seems to be a Chinese person. I'm just guessing by the name, so if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. Named Beiwei Chang, I think I got that right, sent us $50. You're awesome.
Yeah, even though we distinctly asked everyone not to send us money, we're not going to turn away money.
Yeah, the thing is, I put a PayPal on the site because, it's more expensive for us to do the podcast now.
Well, and because that one listener asked us to.
Yeah, and the thing is I don't want to ask for money. I don't need money. I don't want money. If no one sent me money, I'd be perfectly happy. But people out there they're like trying to put money into my pocket. And, I really, you have to say no 3 times and then you have to let them put it there. That's the rule.
Yeah, it's kind of like that rule of how many times a boy is allowed to break a promise.
Yep. So there's a PayPal hidden in the bottom right corner of our main site, hidden down there. And, people can give us money if they are incredibly compelled, but we will not ask for it. In fact, if someone said...
Yeah, we won't ask for it, yet you keep bringing it up.
If someone came to me and said, I want to give you PayPal money, I'd say, don't give it to me.
Now, I will tell you right now that if you're thinking about giving us PayPal money, hold off and wait. Because now that our logo contest and everything is mostly finalized, if you want to give us money, you'd be better off giving the company we're going to contract to make awesome Geeknights swag, giving them the money. We won't see any of it, but then you get swag.
Swag.
We'd rather
instead of nothing.
We'd rather you have swag than us have money.
Yep.
So stay tuned for the t-shirts. We've actually got a really good, really relevant to today's show t-shirt.
But if you do want to get mad props on the show, then giving us money is a good way to do that, as Beiwei Chang has evidenced.
Yeah. Great. So you've just told everyone we can be bought.
No. We're going to say your name. We're not going to pimp your company or your website or anything like that.
Yeah. Though I do have to give an awesome shout out to James and Lisa, good friends of ours who not recently, it was actually a while ago, moved to Texas. And... I've got this new Mac Mini, and tomorrow we're going to be interviewing the con chair of Otakon, Mr. Jim Vowles, who's an awesome man.
And his cousin, Jim Consonance.
Yeah. I'll bet no one's ever made that joke to him.
Maybe I should make it to him.
But we decided to do the interview over iChat because it has apparently this nice GarageBand interface, even though I hate GarageBand, but I won't get into that today because it's not that day.
Yeah, you can listen to yesterday's podcast for all that shit.
Yeah. But I had to test it because I can't really test it without opening an actual conversation. So I looked and, not many of the people we know have Macs, and far fewer of them use iChat. So James and Lisa were gracious enough to turn on their Macs and their iChats and talk to me, and I recorded it, thus I was able to prove that it works, and now I learned everything about it.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah.
News time?
I think it's news time. We'll go with yours first, since yours is actually video game news, and mine is just piss you off news.
Great. Piss me off news. Grr.
I'm real good at piss you off news.
Well, here you go. Ready? I'm going to read it straight from the website. In a bid to steal Sony's thunder, Microsoft is rumored to be slashing the 360's price tag by almost $100.
Whoa.
Sometime around autumn of 2006... Microsoft, maybe they'll redesign the system or, with better, cheaper hardware or something, and they'll bring the core system down to currently $300 and will be cheaper than the Wii, and the Pro Super Complete Xbox 360 will be slightly more than the Wii. And
now,
this isn't for sure. This is an industry. It's not even like a rumor. It says rumor. But it's like a good guess.
Now, I'll point out one that we won't talk about. Let's not take Nintendo right away. Let's just compare this to what's going on with Sony. I'd say that that's another nail in Sony's coffin because there are a lot of nails hanging around lately.
But it doesn't matter. You can't go beyond the maximum. When the nail is driven all the way into the wood, hitting it more doesn't do anything.
I guess what I want to say is that if this is true, there's just a giant nail buried in the ground. There's no coffin. I mean, think about it. The Xbox 360, which as far as forget what you know about the technology. The vast majority of people don't. They know that Xbox is hardcore gaming and PlayStation is hardcore gaming. I think the vast majority of people equate the two in terms of power and performance and everything. Now, if some mom wants to buy a video game system for Johnny for Christmas, And the two hardcore gaming systems that are, as far as she's concerned, identical, one of them is $600 and one of them is $300. Huh.
Because, I mean, right now it's like, okay, the Wii was $250, the Super Xbox, which pretty much, it seems to be the opinion of most people that the core Xbox, the cheap one, is basically worthless and you need the good one that costs more.
Kind of like the Mac Mini Solo.
Kind of like the Mac Mini Core Solo, yes. So it's right now it's Wii 250, Xbox 400, PlayStation 3 600. What if it was Wii 250, Xbox 360 300? So only $50 more than the incredibly cheap Wii. So it's a Wii plus a game, and PlayStation 3 600. Now the gap between the 360 and a PlayStation 2, a PlayStation 3 will be 2 Xboxes in price, or slightly less than 2 Xboxes in price. That's ridiculous.
I don't even know what to say.
I mean, back in the day when you had to choose between an SNES and a Genesis was cheaper by about $50 usually, you know, and it didn't really matter. But if the Genesis was half the price of the Super Nintendo, that would have been insane.
Now, in
It's
terms
like,
of Nintendo, there are two ways to look at it. Either you could say that now that the Xbox is so cheap, and especially considering that normal people really equate the Xbox brand with hardcore gaming, it might put a dent in Wii sales. But at the same time, it might just make people more inclined to buy both, because you only need one of the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3.
Mm-hmm.
There are very few games that you can't play on one.
There were many, many surveys that were like, what are you going to get? And when you looked at the numbers, it seemed like even though people getting just a Wii wasn't super many. Of course, only super gamers are voting, of course.
Yeah, except on
But
Slashdot.
When you took into account the number of people who were buying something else and a Wii, and you combined it all, it ended up where more than half the gamers wanted Wiis. They just, more than half of those guys also wanted something else in addition.
So stay tuned. If this is true, we'll talk about it again, because there are far-reaching ramifications.
Possibly buying an Xbox 360.
Yeah.
If it's so cheap, it's hard to say no.
Man, what's going on with us? I bought a Mac. Now we're thinking of buying an Xbox.
I don't know.
You know what it's like? Remember way back?
I switched from Gentoo to Ubuntu.
Ubuntu. When the Xbox came out, the first Xbox, and everyone made fun of it. In fact, Penny Arcade ruthlessly made fun of it.
Those giant controllers.
They did like 8 comics about how terrible the Xbox was.
All the while, Gabe was becoming the master of Mech Assault.
Fast forward to today. They're freaking Xbox gamers. They love it.
Yep.
They complain about it, but every gamer complains about every game they play. I mean,
that's what they do, yeah.
That's what they do, and that's what this is.
That's what this is.
All right. Now to the piss you off news. Now, I was going to talk about Scientologists, because I really don't like Scientologists. But there's another pseudo-religious group that has the word science in it that in many ways bothers me more. Mainly because Scientology, for the most part, harms adults. It harms adults and families, but it harms people who, while I feel sorry for them and I think we should help them, they kind of bring it on themselves by joining this crazy group. Christian Scientists harm children, and that's not cool. Now, to gloss over a lot of the details, many Christian Scientists don't believe in such things as immunization or going to the doctor.
Yeah, just remember, Christian Scientists, when someone says Christian Scientist, they don't mean a person who is a scientist who also happens to be a Christian.
Which would be an awesome thing.
And they don't mean a Scientologist, which is something very different than a Christian Scientist.
Christian Scientists are generally, God will save you if you're sick. Mm-hmm. And there have been so many court cases where a family will have a child, and the child gets sick, and they won't take the child to the doctor because it's against their faith, and then the child dies. Mm-hmm. Or sometimes the state will sue and take the child away from them to give the child treatment, and then the parents will kidnap the child, run to Mexico, and then the child will die. That happened recently. Now, science, I guess, has won around in that in Boston, just now, there is a minor measles outbreak in a Christian Science group. Measles. Measles is the disease that does not really exist in the civilized world anymore. We eradicated it. We, through science, technology, and a concerted effort of mankind, practically eliminated a horrible disease. Similar to what we did with polio or typhus. Or what we almost did to malaria before Greenpeace got involved. But I won't talk about that today.
On Penn, that reminds me, on Penn's show today, he was talking about genetic engineering, but there was a relevant bit at the end where he talked about a T-shirt his friend has that says, "God wants you dead," or "God wants to kill you." Because without science or any medicine or anything like that, half of babies just die, and half of mothers who make babies will die. And everyone else will die before the age of 30, most likely. I think the average life expectancy of a non-science human is like 27, 28.
Yeah.
So science is what lets you live. God will kill you. Don't be a Christian scientist. Christian science doesn't work. Only real science will let you live.
Now, don't get confused here. I'm not attacking faith, religion, Christianity.
Not today, anyway.
I'm attacking Christian science.
Today.
And I want to bring this up mainly because the issue here was vaccinations. These parents did not want to vaccinate their child with the MMR, the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine, which every child in this country gets. Now, there are a lot of people who object to this vaccine for non-religious reasons, which is just as stupid and just as dangerous. It so happens that many vaccines use a compound that has mercury in it to stabilize them or to preserve them.
Now, if you tell some idiot on the street, they know that mercury is poisonous, and you tell them that vaccine has mercury in it. So they put two and two together, and they say, it's poison.
Even worse, a couple of crackpots a while ago brought forth some evidence that has mostly been discredited, saying that autism looks like it is caused in many cases by vaccines and the mercury in vaccines, which is just not true.
Not true at all. It's definitely a genetic type of thing.
There could be environmental. We really don't know. We know there are genetic factors,
Yep.
but there is no substantial evidence that vaccines have anything to do with it. And furthermore, I would argue that even if they did, the net benefit to mankind of vaccinating every child is, good of the many. It's a greater good. You'll save far more people from far worse fates by vaccinating everyone if 0.01% of the people vaccinated develop autism, even though that doesn't actually happen.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to make the intellectual argument here in case anyone, decided to argue against it.
Yep. You know what my argument against vaccines is? They hurt.
No, they don't. You're a little baby. You don't know.
That hurts.
Actually, I've gotten many interesting vaccines in my adult life.
All right, if it doesn't hurt, let me give you all kinds of shots then.
Scott, you realize that while I was young, I had allergy shots for over 8 years where twice a week I would go in and get 2 shots in each arm. Shots don't hurt. They don't even bother me at all.
All right, then I'll give you some.
Only if they do something useful for me. I mean, a while ago I got the hepatitis vaccine and the meningitis vaccine because I work in hospitals.
All right, I'll put something in the shots. I'll put in
Yeah.
heroin. Heroin will work. You like heroin, right?
Yeah, heroin's just great.
Perfect. We'll get to that.
I saw this news. I was going to talk about some stupid thing, and then I saw this news about a measles outbreak in the United States. And I just couldn't let that stand. I had to say something about it. But happily, that music means that it's time for Things of the Day.
Yes, if you're a new listener, every episode we do the Things of the Day, which is where we pick a thing from the internet that we think is humorous, interesting, etc., and the link to it is on the website in the show notes.
Yep, or many people apparently just look at my Delicious because I usually put in there what I'm going to link to.
Yep, mine is in my Delicious.
But anyway, what I discovered, on a much lighter note from what we were just talking about, Hulk Hogan is selling his mansion. Now, I'll note right now that
I do a Hulk Hogan impression, but I almost did a Macho Man Randy Savage impression by accident.
I can only do Macho Man Randy Savage and Quagmire.
Giggity.
Giggity. All right. Now, the interesting thing I noted is, one, he's selling the mansion for $25 million, and the mansion has a lot of weird rich guy things in it, like special hardwood floors from only the hearts of oaks and woven in a pattern.
Whoa.
And weird stuff. But the very interesting thing I noticed, and Scott noticed it too when I read it to him, was that this house has 5 bedrooms and 8 bathrooms.
Okay, so wait. There is a bathroom for each bedroom. That's 5. There's 1 downstairs, 6.
I don't know.
There's another. Maybe there's like 3 stories of non-bedroom. Maybe it's how many stories is it?
You know, I didn't even read the whole article. I suggest you all read it.
Okay, maybe there's like one for the maid quarters.
No, just in the house. There are more bathrooms in the maid's quarters. The only thing I can think of is a quote from an old webcomic that I read where I want a bathroom so big it has a bathroom in it. That's all I got. Hulk Hogan selling his house.
Yeah, it seems to me like, is he selling the house? I don't think he's selling it because he's poor.
No, he's selling it because he moved to Miami Beach.
Yeah, it seems like he's selling this mansion because it's a crazy mansion. That's not really the greatest, most practical thing to live in.
He's not like MC Hammer selling his mansion because his manager stole all his money.
Yeah, I don't think MC Hammer had problems besides his manager stealing his money.
True, he did, but his manager was probably the final nail in that nail.
Yep. Well, the manager just jumped off the sinking ship in the last lifeboat. The ship was already sinking.
With all the money. It was a ship made of money.
Yep, it was the lifeboat made of money. He folded up the little dollar bills to make a boat. So, gaming day, Excite Bike. Doot, 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 doot. Doot, 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 doot.
Now, first off, you all know Excite Bike. I would like to mention right now, even though this isn't Scott's thing of the day, that if you've ever thought you were good at Excite Bike, no, you're wrong, and there's a Google video to prove it.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway.
Oops. I started the thing of the day.
All right, so what's your thing anyway?
It's this Flash game that's Excite Bike, but it's not the Excite Bike you're used to. What you do is the Excite Bike guy starts going, and you can't really change lanes or anything like that. It's just you're on the bottom row, and first there's a meter that goes back and forth. You need to push the space bar when the meter's full to get a good start.
All right, whatever.
Yeah, then the guy goes and he hits a jump. And using the A, S, D keys and the arrow and the W key and the arrow keys, you do tricks while you're in the air, like flipping over the bike, all kinds of crazy motocrossy stuff.
All right, so it's just Excite Bike style, and it's not really Excite Bike.
No, it's not really Excite Bike. And the more tricks you do, the faster you go, the more airtime you get, the more tricks you do, the faster you go.
Uh-huh.
Now, even more fun than that, for me at least, was this other mode where you choose a number of trucks to jump over, 1 through 10. And you jump. And the way you build up speed in that mode is by going AS, 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 hitting the A and S keys in rapid succession.
I got a mad Nintendo finger.
Yeah, so this is the Nintendo finger test for everyone out there. I was able to jump over all 10 trucks.
Whoa.
Can you jump over all 10 trucks? That is the question. If you can't, don't play Mario Party with me. You'll just lose.
I remember that time you and me were on a team in Mario Party, and I forget who we were playing against. And it was the game where it was teams, and it was who can hit A the most. And we won by like 400 button presses or something sick.
It was something really sick.
Yeah. All right, anyway, it's gaming day, and we haven't talked about board games in a while, so we decided we'd pull out a game that we like. We've played it a bunch of times. I bought it completely on a whim. It's a real impressive-looking game. And
There's also a computer game that's almost the same.
Yep, it is Railroad Tycoon.
Yeehaw!
Now, it's not...
Choo-choo!
While the game is railroad-themed, and it plays like a railroad game, it is not a railroad game.
Not with a capital R, anyway.
Yeah, it's like, I'm a libertarian, but not with a capital L. Railroad game with a capital R, or capital L, is crayons and wax paper. If you've ever seen a game with a bunch of scary dudes sitting around a table with a bunch of wax paper and maps, and they're drawing colored lines on it, and they're yelling at each other, that is a railroad game. I find them scary and frightening.
Mm-hmm.
This is just a fun, happy game to play with your friends and move little cubes around.
Oh, the cubes.
It's not the most intellectually demanding game. It's not the most hardcore German game, but it's a solid game. It's a lot of fun, and it's very tactical and strategic.
Mm-hmm. It's also pretty free. Like, you can do all sorts of different stuff in this game. It's not like other games where there's just a few decisions to make. You're free to do all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yep, and many of them are profitable. The game is very well balanced in that regard.
Yeah, it seems like no matter what you do, you'll always profit. The key is to just profit faster and more.
Yep, and the game will come down to a lot of little decisions you made throughout the game.
Yep.
But,
Okay.
Yeah, the
You
game.
want to talk about how the game works?
All right, the game's very simple. You have a very large board that is the eastern United States.
Well, the eastern half of the United States. It goes all the way out to the middle of the country where Kansas is and stuff.
Yep, and then it has two links that represent the West, but you don't need to worry about them. There's no... I've seen people who made expansions, but it's just not worth it.
No.
And basically, here's the thing. You have money, and you use money to buy railroad tracks between cities. You also use money to buy other things like upgrading trains and buying equipment and buying the right to go first on a turn. And your main goal is to ship cubes from cities to other cities, thereby generating profit, thereby using that profit to ship more cubes, and in the course of all this, getting victory points.
Mm-hmm. So let's say there's a city. Every city has cubes in it at the beginning.
A random assortment.
And different cities have different numbers of cubes based on how much industry is in that city.
Yep, and each cube represents an industry.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very abstract thing.
Very abstract. So let's say there's a red cube in Florida somewhere. And I guess it'd be some city in Florida, Tampa, I guess. Is that on the map?
Yeah, Tampa's on the map.
All right, and the nearest red city, because you can only send red cubes to red cities, you see, is, I don't know, somewhere in Carolina or something.
Some other city.
Yes. So now you have to build railroad track from Florida to Carolina in order to send the cube from one city to the next one.
Now, you can only lay certain amounts of track per round. So there are a lot of links that just can't be made.
Yep.
So you have to stop over in other cities. So you'll make a track from Chicago to Detroit, and then Detroit to Toledo, and then Toledo to whatnot.
Yeah, and then if you want to ship from Chicago to whatnot, and it goes through two other cities, you need an upgraded train to make that trip because it has too many stops.
Now, the one gimmick here is that when you build a track, because you paid for it, it's your track. But anyone can use any track on the board.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, you have to pay for the privilege.
So if I send a cube from my city across my track, then across my track again, then across Rim's track, I get 2 points and he gets 1 point because I used one of his tracks and two of my tracks.
So there's definitely a competitive thing going on. Plus, because of that, say there's a city and two people have rail lines going out of it, they'll be fighting to ship those cubes out first and get rid of them.
Yep, people will often ship cubes out over other people's tracks just to force cubes to be shipped. And maybe it's a 6-player game and Rim is lost and I'm in second place. And I can ship a cube over my track and then maybe 5 of Rim tracks. And I get 1 point for that. I might do it. It empties cubes. It does all sort. There's all kinds of crazy stuff you can do.
Now, you have used money to do all these things. But gimmick number 2, you don't start with any money.
You start with jack and shit for money. Actually, nothing.
You start with the lowest level train you can have and nothing. So how do you do anything? And I really like this mechanic, and I'd love to see more games that involve money use a mechanic like this. You can sell stock in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You can sell shares. Basically, you will sell, say, 5 shares. I think you get $5,000 for every share you sell. Every turn, you then have to pay interest on all those forever.
Dividends.
Dividends. You can never buy off or pay off a share.
Right.
So you say in the beginning of the game you take 2 shares. So now you get 10 grand. Every round for the rest of the game you pay 2 grand back to the bank.
Yep. So you want to take as few shares as possible, but at the same time, if you take more shares, maybe you can get a big start in the game with a big pile of money. So it's all about managing. If you take too few shares, other people will jump ahead of you in the game. But if you take too many, you won't be able to make anything profitable early in the game, and you'll end up you can screw yourself over by taking too many shares and end up with a very slow-moving, useless, unprofitable railroad company.
You can also screw yourself by not taking enough shares, not expanding fast enough, and being cut out of all the important markets.
Yep.
There's a very fine line that I have often crossed.
Often. The first time I played, I took way too many. I thought I was trying to limit shares. I took way too many because what happened was you get in the ultimate worst situation is when you take a few shares, you took a couple more than you wanted to, but okay, whatever. You know, it's only a couple more shares, you know. And then you don't have enough money to pay those shares off, and now you have to take a share to pay off the shares.
That, for anyone who knows math, and even if you don't, you can figure out is a bad idea.
You pretty much have no choice, though.
Yeah, it's not good.
So then you have no money to do any railroading to get more money to pay off these shares.
I got no money.
So what do? You take some shares. Great.
Now, there's another gimmick involving the shares, in that at the end of the game, you lose 1 victory point. And 1 victory point in this game is a big deal for every share that you have.
So shaking shares is not good, but necessary. It's like you must do something that hurts you in order to win.
But everyone must do it, so it's who manages that must the best.
Yep. The game also has these cards.
These are a real nice, I don't want to call them a gimmick, but without these, the game would be very stagnant. Because aside from the randomization of the cubes on the cities, the strategies would pretty much always be the same because the board's static.
Yep. Now, so even though the cards add randomness, they add flavor, and they're not secret, so everyone can look at them and make a decision based on them, so it's not bad. What they do is, well, there are different kinds of cards, but the interesting ones are the ones that say, if you do this, you get a pile of money. Or if you do this, then you get all these goodies. It'll be like, first person to ship a cube here. So everyone will race to ship a cube there.
A lot of them are abilities, too. Like, anyone who has this card can build extra tracks.
You know, or anyone who has this card can put more cubes in a city.
Yep, or just take an extra turn. All sorts of fun stuff.
Yep.
There are also character cards, which there's definitely another gimmick. Every person in the game has a secret card, and they're doled out randomly.
At the beginning of the game.
And you look at it, and it gives you a name of some famous old railroad tycoon, and a relevant goal, and you get bonus victory points at the end if you accomplish that goal.
So for my favorite one is take the least shares.
Yeah.
If you're that guy and you take the least shares, at the end of the game you get like 10 points.
Now
something like that.
There are 2 cards that say that. So you might have 2 people who neither one of them knows it, but they're both competing for the least shares.
Crazy. Because then one of them's going to get points and one of them isn't. Dum dum dum.
Yep. But other than that, I mean, the game is very simple. You build tracks. Well, basically, we'll go over how the game actually works now that we've covered all the gimmicks.
Okay.
You get your money with the shares, and the game consists of turns. And every turn consists... Well, we have rounds. Let's call them rounds. Let's go that way. There are rounds. And within a round, there are 3 sets of turns. So it goes around, and everyone takes their turn. Then it goes around, and everyone takes their turn. Then it goes around a 3rd time, and everyone takes their turn. Then the whole thing's over. Then you do the paying dividends out and taking new shares and all the stuff between. Now, the other mechanic here is that when you build railroad tracks, you can only build, I think, 4 sections of track for each of your turns.
So you can, at most, you can build 12.
Yep, and that's if you do nothing but build the maximum every time it's your turn for an entire round. And if you build any tracks that don't connect 2 cities within the scope of your 3 turns, then they're wiped off the board and you just wasted all your money.
Good job. Yeah, you have to pay for each tile of track you put on the board.
You also have to pay more if you go over like mountains or over rivers.
Or through to make a tunnel.
Yeah.
It really, it sucks to pay for building track. That's pretty much what it comes down to.
It costs a lot. The thing is, once the game's going, especially towards the end of the game, or the middle of the game especially, you'll have so much money and profit that you don't care, and you're just blowing tracks through mountains everywhere left and right.
Unless you suck.
And then you suck.
Yep. But there's also lots of strategy and placement of track because you can prevent other people from building tracks in efficient ways. They'll have to go and take an inefficient route that costs more money.
Also deciding where to build. I mean, say it's a 4-player game and 3 players are all fighting over the Northeast in New York. You just start building in the Midwest where no one's competing with you.
Yep. Even though you have to, the cities there in the Northeast are closer together and have a lot of cubes. So early in the game, that's really good because it doesn't cost a lot to set something up that can ship cubes. But later on in the game, there won't be any cubes left over there. But it's harder to start out in the middle of nowhere early in the game because you have to spend more money because the cities are farther away. You have to build more track.
Of course, our friend Pete showed us very, very powerfully one game we played.
What happens when no one is watching what you're doing?
Yeah, we're all fighting over the Northeast and the Southeast and a little bit over the Midwest. Pete just built tracks all over the West, and we weren't paying attention. And then we realized that he had built the Western Link, so he connected to the West. And then he built lines from there all the way to Chicago, which is this crazy thing in the game. There's a card about it and everything.
And then all the way to New York.
Yeah, he got more points from that than all of us had gotten from our squabbling in New York combined.
Basically, because what it does is the Western Link to Chicago and this card makes a whole pile of red cubes. And then if you connect Chicago to New York and you have a good enough train that can make that whole trip, all of those red cubes get you like 5 zillion points each. So every turn you just ship those red cubes. And all we could do about it was maybe steal those red cubes and ship them somewhere else on our own.
Which is tough. One of the mechanics of shipping cubes, which we should probably talk about, is that you can ship cubes over any train lines, but the first line that any cube goes over that you're trying to ship has to go over one of your trains.
So if you want to steal cubes from Chicago, you need to have a connection with you that belongs to you from Chicago to somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yep.
The way cubes work is that all the cities have cubes of different colors, and you want to ship cubes to the city of their color. If a red cube starts in a red city, you have to take it to a different red city. Simple as that. You can't ship cubes over a city of the relevant color to another city of the relevant color.
Yeah, so if it's like you have a purple cube in a blue city, and then a train track goes to a red city, then a purple city, then a yellow city, and then a purple city, you can't ship it to the second purple city. It has to go to the closer purple city, because the first purple city will take the cube, not the next one.
Yep. Which, the reason that's important is that the way you get victory points... Now, on your rounds, I said you can build up to 4 sections of track. The other options you have are take one of those cards that'll be laying face up, or ship a cube. So anytime you do something, it's at the expense of shipping a cube or taking a card or doing one of the other things.
It's really hard to decide sometimes on your turn because there'll be a really good piece of track you want to build and there'll be some cubes you want to ship, and you can't do both. So it's always a fight. Should I ship the cubes or should I build the tracks? You know, and it's like, okay, if I build the tracks, then he'll get X points because he'll build the track first, and then he'll ship that cube, and yeah.
But then he's thinking the same thing, and the poison ends up going in both cups.
Dun, dun, dun.
Now, say you get 1 point when you ship a cube for every section of track that it goes over that is yours. And like we said, any other sections of track that it goes over, those people get the points. Now, the interesting thing about this game is the way scoring and income and all that work. Because we keep talking about money and dividends and selling shares in your stock, but we didn't explain how to get actual money to pay all this off. Every victory point you get moves you up on this scale. There's a scale going up both sides of the board.
And everyone starts at 0, which means your income is like 4,000.
I don't even remember.
It's really low. You basically barely get any money at the beginning.
For every victory point that you get, you move up the scale. And as you move up the scale, the income you get for every round, set of 3 turns, increases. So shipping a bunch of cubes increases your income permanently. Thus, you have more money to build more things to ship more cubes.
The thing is, the scale, eventually, when you get a ton of... Now, of course, whoever has the most victory points wins.
Yes.
More victory points is always better, no matter what. But if you get too many victory points, I think around like 30 or 40, 50 victory points, when you start getting up there, your income starts decreasing because your railroad is large and unwieldy and you have to pay to maintain it and all that. So someone who's getting way ahead in the game gets slowed down by decreased income.
But at the same time, you want to build up to that high income while you're profitable. Then during that time, instead of shipping cubes and dropping out of that income area, you just start building tracks everywhere or picking up all those cards you're going to need later in the game.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of strategy involved in that.
Yeah, it's ship cubes, ship cubes, ship cubes. My income, if I ship any more cubes, will decrease. Let me build a bunch of tracks while my income is high. Now that I've built a bunch of tracks, I will ship cubes to get a bunch of victory points, not caring that my income will decrease because I've already built all my tracks while my income was high.
Meanwhile, everyone else in the game is doing the exact same thing you're doing, and there's crazy competition, and you can't really predict what everyone's going to do, and there's so many chaotic factors involved.
Yet the way the game works really goes along with the theme of competing railroad tycoons, I must say.
It does. Now, you ship the cubes, get the victory points, use the cards, get victory points, and in the end, it comes down to victory points. Now, the game ends when a number of cities have run out of goods.
So there's a lot of strategy in that as well. You know, you'll see a city with one cube in it, and if you want the game to end sooner, which is usually because you're winning, you will try to take the last cubes out of cities, and make those cities empty out. Because if a city has no cubes, you put a brown thing in it, and how many brown things ends the game?
It depends on how many players you have.
Yeah, but you want to get a lot of brown things out there to end the game quickly if you're winning. If you're losing the game, you want to use cards to put cubes in empty cities to bring them back to life. And you want to ship cubes from cities that have a bunch of cubes in them. That way they won't empty out and you'll be safe. And the game can go longer and you have a chance to dethrone the current winner.
Yep, and the game is really volatile. I mean, if someone pulls ahead in the beginning, there's a decent chance someone who's smart can just blow them away by the midpoint of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the game itself, the production values are very high, except for a few tiny niggling little issues. The board is huge.
The board is actually 3 boards.
And it's big. You lay them all next to each other, and it's big and impressive looking.
It takes up a whole table. This thing is giant.
It comes with a whole bunch of colored little train pieces made out of plastic.
Yep. Those are pretty cool.
Yep.
Except their problems is like the board is not a really fancy board. It's sort of a cheap board. What it lacks in thickness and sturdiness, it makes up for in size and quantity. And those little plastic trains are really cool, but some of them little chimneys break off.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And it comes the only real drawback, other than the fact that the board's a little cheap, is that it comes with paper money.
Oh, paper money's the worst.
Paper money's annoying, but it kind of works in this game.
Yeah, the shares are nice, the cards are nice, the train upgrade things are really thick cardboard like tiles. I don't know why they did that, but it works. Everything is pretty good except for the paper money.
Also, the game's real expensive.
Yeah, the game is pretty expensive, and the board is big and it's heavy.
The thing is, we're hardcore German gamers. We like the brains banging against each other, Bewegung oder wir schlagen sie games.
Mm-hmm.
And this game's a really fun game. It's a good game to get 6 people together. I don't recommend playing it with fewer than 2 or 3. Well, not fewer than 2, but fewer than 3 or 4 people. It's just not as fun.
Yeah, we played it with 2, and it was kind of eh.
Yeah, we played it with 3, and it was okay. But if you play it with a full set of players, it becomes just awesome.
The thing is, even though the game has ways to make up for the fact that there aren't enough players and that it takes a different number of empty cities to end the game, if there aren't that many players, what ends up happening is there isn't enough of that land-grabbing competition. With a lot of players, you're really right into the game. You're fighting for the cities and the connections and all that stuff because someone else will get it before you do.
And that's the fun part of the game. I mean, you can't directly screw people. You can't directly make deals with people, but there's just all this fierce competition. And there's a long time between when you take your turn and everyone else takes theirs.
Yep, and in a 2 or 3 player game, everyone pretty much has all the room they want to build whatever they want without anyone else getting in the way. It's like, oh, if he's going to go over there, I'll just go over here where he's not.
The game causes a lot of yelling, which is good. We like games that cause yelling.
Yep, yelling is fun. How long was it?
45 minutes.
That's not bad.
So, I mean, in sum, Railroad Tycoon is probably a good buy. I can't imagine any bored gamer who would dislike this game significantly.
Yeah, if you are a bored gamer, you will probably like Railroad Tycoon. If
And
you're
honestly,
just a normal person, I don't know.
You know what? I think normal people, normies or muggles or people who aren't really into heavy German board games would probably really enjoy this game as long as they played it with at least a few gamers who knew how to play and were hardcore and knew what was going on to kind of guide them.
Yeah, this game definitely is more accessible to normal folk than,
Yes.
say, a Tigris and Euphrates, but it's not as accessible as, say, a Battleship or an Uno.
True. But you get a lot out of it. I mean, someone who doesn't know much about board gaming could really enjoy this game. And the thing is, even if you're losing, even if you're just getting your ass kicked into the ground, handed to you, and beaten,
You're still building some tracks and putting some trains on them, and
it's real fun to play the game.
moving some cubes around.
You always feel like you're accomplishing something.
Yeah, the first time I played, I started out basically, in the hole, going deeper into the hole. But after a few turns, I managed to just slowly crawl out of the hole, and I was profiting and building stuff. I never was able, everyone else, was already way ahead of me on the curve and was building a lot more stuff and shipping a lot more cubes. But I did something, and it felt pretty good.
Yep, that's the thing. The game is very fun, in addition to the fact that it's very tactical and very strategic.
Mm-hmm.
But that's enough about Railroad Tycoon. I know we haven't talked about board games a lot. We're glad to bring it back. We'd like to get some feedback, as always. I don't know how many of you out there have played this game. I recommend picking it up if you find it cheap.
Yeah, what did the game cost you? 60, 80?
I think it was like 60, but I got that discount.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
It's a big, expensive game, in size and everything.
It's real impressive looking. If you're at a convention where there's a lot of space, it's a great game to set up somewhere.
Especially since you're going to need like two tables stuck together to play. Conventions are a great place.
Yeah, you'll gather a crowd real quick.
Yeah, people say, "Ooh, what's this? It's huge. And look at all those trains, and whoa, it's big." And they'll just hang around you and watch everything you're doing.
Yep. And a final little meta bit here, because I know after yesterday's show, I've gotten a lot of feedback, and some people have given me some really good advice on things I can do to make my Mac experience better. Most people seem to agree that GarageBand does have a lot of deficiencies.
Mm-hmm.
But the only real point of contention I've seen now is that a lot of people are saying that the PC itself, the Intel Core, single core, is not fast enough, or that there's a performance problem with the hardware, which I am 99% sure is not true, because this is a screaming little machine for what it's worth. And this week, at some point, we're going to boot camp and install Ubuntu on it, and then run Resound and Audacity and do the podcast the way we do in Linux, just on this hardware.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll have a full report on that.
All right.
Because we do know that there is a lot of overhead in OS X.
Yeah.
OS X is really pretty and great for day-to-day use, but there's a lot of overhead, and we're going to be able to see exactly how much overhead.
Plus, most of our complaints aren't the fact that it's slow. I mean, or that it ran out of RAM. Okay. The problem is not that it ran out of RAM. The problem is that it ran out of RAM and didn't say anything.
Though, if you look at the
problem
forums, it looks like that was just an even stupider bug.
Oh.
About tempo and beats per minute.
Oh.
Yeah.
See, it's stuff like...
No, I'm verifying it now, but it looks like GarageBand is limited severely in that it can only keep track of X number of events. So by default, it has a beats per minute thing, a tempo, which, because it was originally a music program...
Well, it still is a music program.
Yeah, but now they hype it for podcasting. They don't say much about the music aspect of it.
Yep.
It still has that in the podcasting. It has a feature that has no context in podcasting, but is still there.
Wait. So there's beats per minute in our podcast?
Yes, which, get this.
Dumb.
When it maxes out the number that it can deal with, it just stops recording. And the way to fix that, as two people told me, is to set the tempo to like 40 beats per minute instead of the standard 120. That way it won't run out so quickly and you can record longer.
Wow.
That is a prime example of context being used improperly.
That is the kind of stuff that we're complaining about. It's the design of the software, design of the interface of the software, the code of the software. The reason we bought it was for the software, and the software is bad, but it was not free.
And I want to say right now, it's not OS X. I am absolutely enjoying OS X. It's running really well, and other than GarageBand, things are generally pretty awesome. I'm mostly complaining about GarageBand.
Yep.
And I'm complaining about Apple for hyping GarageBand, saying it can do things that it doesn't do so well.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's talk for next Monday.
And yesterday.
Well,
Next Monday's going to be, I think, how computers work some more.
Yeah, unless we have a lot to say after we Ubuntuize.
Yeah, well, actually, we could do since we just did a show about Mac, we could do a show about, I think we did an Ubuntu show before.
Yeah, actually what I'd like to do is do a show on UI and context and all this stuff, because I've noticed that I've had trouble explaining to people why I dislike GarageBand, mostly because a lot of people don't seem to know all of the interface design or human-computer interaction or usability engineering terms or terminology.
Like they don't know what it means when you say context?
Well, I think people seem to not the word context when referring to a design, a usability, an interface thing, is a very specific thing, an extremely specific thing, and I think people are taking that word very generally and thus misunderstanding me.
Yep, I think a lot of people aren't exactly sure what you mean because, I mean, when you say context menu, 90% of people don't know what the hell that is.
Yeah, but plus I think that'd be a good show.
Mm-hmm. All right, we can maybe do that.
I've taken a lot of classes on it. I mean, I majored in IT, and that was one of the planks of IT.
Yeah, the plank you didn't go for.
No, I did 4 classes in it. I just didn't concentrate in it, so I didn't take classes beyond it.
Yeah. Plus, weren't those classes mostly joke classes where you had other people do tiny crap projects in VB and stuff like that?
Oh, no. Those classes were the classes on, like, technology transfer and, God, what was the other stupid class I took? I could do a whole show on stupid classes I took.
All right.
Some of these classes were really good, though.
We'll do that Thursday. Stupid classes from college.
That's a good one. All right.
All right.
And that was Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for our opening theme.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com. If you like our podcasts, you'll love our forums. Make sure you visit them. You can send your email feedback to geeknights@gmail.com. And if you want, you can leave us a voicemail at 206-333-1537.
Geeknights airs every weeknight, Monday through Thursday.
Geeknights is recorded with absolutely no studio and no audience. But unlike those other talk shows, it's actually recorded at night.